to White, over to Caruso for the lead! Time here, turn up the 18! Woo!
Hello and welcome back to See Red UK, where quite simply it's Chicago Bulls thing. This podcast is part of the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever you're listening, rate, review, subscribe, helps us out and ensures you don't miss another episode. And if you're lucky enough to be watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, give it a thumbs up and leave some comments down below because we do appreciate them and just lets us know who's watching. I'm Matt and as usual joined by Neil. How are we doing, Neil?
I'm good, thanks. Just over a batch of man flu, so of course, naturally enough, I nearly died. But I'm on the mend now. I'm coming through it, so ready to talk some balls.
Yeah, and obviously there is quite a bit to get through since our last episode. Last episode we give our current sort of player ratings, and that, I can't remember what day we did it, last Tuesday, and it was just before the Celtics game. And in that episode, I said about wanting to see Torrey Craig, stay fit, stay healthy, and push on to become the unsung hero of the team, which I had him down for. After we finished recording, comes out, he's out for 2 to 4 weeks, before getting reevaluated with a strained knee, picked up over the All-Star weekend, away from obviously Bulls. Mm-hmm. You said about obviously wanting to see P. Will and him push on. We then get the news that he is going under season-ending surgery on his foot problem. So that was either side of the Celtics game as well, wasn't it? We got the Torrey Craig before it, P. Will after it. I think that's how it worked. Obviously the Celtics game, I had it down to be a loss, and that's what we got. No point going over it too much because I think it was as expected. Competitive for so long, and then just disappeared,
Yeah, but the problem is that Boston team, as we said, is an almost flawless team, really. And they absolutely wiped the floor with us. As soon as they decided to put the foot down, that was it. The Bulls were just left in the dust. And it really does illustrate how far we have to go from where we are now.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think as well that last season did we split the series with them?
Yeah, I think so.
And we were.
It was 3-1 or 3-2 or 2 each anyway. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I know how it's just flipped where we're just basically getting embarrassed by them, Mm-hmm. As to be fair, a lot of the league are at the minute. But obviously we highlight what Bulls are doing. So obviously after that, like I say, we've got the P. Will news, and that kind of led people to, we've got to go into the buyout market. We need to go into the buyout market. Now, obviously, we both kind of said we didn't particularly want to go into the buyout market before the injuries.
Well, yeah.
But, and it's kind of like, well, now got the injuries, we've got to get bodies in. Don't really matter who it is, but they can still fulfill a need, a skill set, whether it's three-point shooting, size, whatever happened to be. So AK decides to convert on Ralph Bitim to a standard NBA contract. Supposed multi-year deal. I think it's come out today what that deal actually is. It's basically the same as Carlick Jones' deal from last year.
Yeah.
Converted for the rest of this year, and then it's got dates and guarantees fitted in ready for next year. And that's, to me, it was kind of like confusing, frustrating, and to me worrying. The Bitim deal. I don't know how you sort of felt about it.
It kind of seems to almost have him hanging over a cliff now, really, which is not ideal. Likening it to the Carlick Jones thing, we all know how that played out. I mean, we were both quite excited about what Bitim could be in the future for the Bulls, and the fact that he potentially now needs to prove something, but might not get the minutes in which to do that. It's kind of, it feels like a bit of double jeopardy for him, really.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think it was confusing to a lot of Bulls Nation why they'd done it, mainly because he's on a two-way. You could have just played him. You didn't have to convert his deal. It's frustrating because for the same reasons, basically, and it's like you could have used that space and that money to bring somebody else in that you are going to play, possibly. And to me, it's worrying because, like you just said, it echoes the Carlick Jones from last year.
Yeah.
And we know how that's panned out. And when you listen to the likes of Casey Johnson saying doesn't think he's going to get minutes, it's basically you put in the money there for trade sort of value and stuff like that. It kind of looks like it could be the end of his Bulls career. Because after that, we got the news that Archie's coming back, Ryan Archie-Canio, and kind of thought that was going to be a two-way deal, possibly, because 6'3" guard on a two-way is just heaven for Billy, innit? That's the answer at 4, basically. But anyway, that doesn't seem to have transpired into the two-way because on Sunday, well, it was Sunday for us, just after Windy City's last game, comes out that we're signing Andrew Funk to a two-way deal, which today has come out that it's supposed 2-year two-way deal. Which
I saw that.
We've seen that before as well, and they still end up getting waived or whatever. So to me, you've got Henry Drell, who's been in the system for 3 years now. Sonogo, where we're wanting to see him get minutes, and then you've got Funk now. Where does the team fit back into a two-way deal if that's what's going to happen?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you can go back to a two-way deal after being on a standard. If you get waived and re-signed or whatever.
Yeah, I'd say there must be some sort of a loophole that you could be waived and re-signed on a two-way.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just none of it has particularly pleased Bulls Nation, has it? The signings and all that sort of stuff.
It just doesn't feel like it's enough, and that's the problem. Do Bulls Nation is still waiting for some sort of a big bang, which we've been saying for some time now. It's not coming.
Yeah,
and it certainly wasn't going to come in a buyout market because there just wasn't any big names out there, and we don't have that much cap flexibility anyway to play around with big names. And there's two-way deals, conversions, nothing like that. It's all going to fizzle out in the eyes of most of Bulls Nation, and they're not going to be impressed with it because it just doesn't feel like enough, especially when we feel like we're falling so short all the time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not wanting to talk too much about it now because it's going to be the main segment of our pod. So, but it's just like doesn't seem like there's any end goal with what AK is doing. I know it's all end of bench type stuff and what have you, but when we've got this many injuries, it just doesn't make sense what he's done. But like I say, before I talk too much on it, obviously we then did have the Pelicans game, Sunday night / Monday morning for us. And I had it down as a loss because they were a form team. I think they were just coming on the second of a back-to-back. Or
and I think they've won 6 in a row or something.
Yeah, and they just had that game against Heat, hadn't they, where they picked up. No, that was it. They'd had a back-to-back, then they had a day off, and then they faced Bulls. That's what it was. Because in the day off, they got the suspensions.
That's right.
And even still, I know they was out with, they didn't have CJ McCollum and stuff like that, but it's still a strong team. And in the day, they've still got Zion, who, if he feels like it, can be an absolute wrecking ball.
Yeah.
But throw Alex Caruso out there, and he's not really. But obviously we come away with a win. Quite a comfortable looking scoreline in the end as well, wasn't it?
That came from a late push.
Yeah. And there was a few runs in the game where we go on the scoring drought, as we tend to do. Pelicans peak a little bit, and then we come back into it. And obviously, another player we're going to talk about in a little bit seemed to spark it in the third quarter in Dalen Terry with that sort of steal and his breakaway, bucket.
Done.
So good win. It kind of shows what this team can do, even with the amount of bodies out and stuff like that. I know you were kind of in and out of the game with your man flu, and you had to rewatch it.
I sat up the following day and I rewatched it from start to finish. I didn't just watch highlights, don't worry. So I could really take it all in.
I say you've probably got a better recollection. There, yeah, that word.
Keep trying.
Or recollection. Yeah, whatever.
Recollection.
That's the one.
So I'm here to help. Just ask.
Told you I can speak good Spanglish.
Yeah, very good. Impressive.
Yeah, so you probably got a better memory of the game. I'll go that way. Can't say that way. So, so what was your general sort of take on that before we move on?
Yeah, I thought it felt like it was a bit of an uphill struggle, even though we were kind of keeping up with them for the first kind of 2 and a bit quarters, I suppose. And normally the third quarter is, as we know, it's our failure quarter. It's where it all flops and goes horribly wrong. But we seem to make a bit of a, like you say, it was off the back of a play, and that ignited the Bulls into action, really. And from midway through the third quarter, we looked like a team that had an agenda, and that agenda was to keep stifling all of their offense. I mean, the amount of points that we got from breaking down their offense with defensive stops and breakaways, and to play that kind of fast break basketball seems to suit the young unit of the Chicago Bulls team. And it's something I hope we get to see more of, because it really was effective late in that game.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, it was a solid team performance, which is why I struggled with the bull of the game. Obviously, it eventually went to DeMar, which, when I think back, I'd have probably personally given it to Caruso, but Ayo was up there, and Vooch was my first initial choice as well. And to me, that
my vote.
That was but because you weren't on the live thread, because you were struggling, we didn't get that far. So we did have Gary in the live thread, who just confused everything by throwing everyone's name at me. So cheers, Gary. Hence why I went with DeMar, because I thought it was a perfect game from DeMar, or the perfect game you want to see from DeMar, where it wasn't all about DeMar, and he hit that 3-pointer near the end, which pretty much iced it. Do you know what I mean? And there's a video on our Twitter at the minute, which I took from Johnny Dribble Too Much, where it explains what he was doing in the gym and then shows him doing it on the court, obviously. And I just felt that his veteran head was there at the end of the game, because there was another play just after that where he was on a bit of a sort of breakout. I can't remember the exact build up to it, and he just turned away from the bucket, and I think there was a foul after it. I can't remember like I say, you maybe remember it better than me.
Yeah, DeMar got fouled and went to the line, and then after that, Kobe was fouled and went to the line, I think.
Yeah, so that's to me why DeMar got it. But anyway, so I guess we move on to the main bulk of the episode, and kind of come out because of everything we've just discussed, like over the weekend, basically. Because I got into a bit of a discussion on I think I shared the highlight video of OB, and I think it was on that. I can't remember. Someone, because I said basically just play him, and because it's the only way we're going to see what he's capable of. And somebody come in the comments saying, Billy's not paid to develop players, he's paid to get wins. And the conversation went from there. I was in a bit of an arse over the weekend, to be fair, so probably didn't react the way I could have done, should have done. I can't remember. I didn't say anything too out of turn, but I wasn't in the mood for.
So he got to see the real Matt, is what you're saying? It wasn't just the face you put on for Series UK.
No, Yeah.
You don't know what the answer to that, do you?
I kept it, a bit PC, shall we say?
Toned down.
Yeah. But I wasn't saying what I really wanted to say. Yeah. So anyway, obviously it led me to ask. You had a few points, and we kind of put it under this thing now of: do we want to see this team compete or develop, basically?
Right.
And there's obviously a few other podcasters that have been doing similar things about a certain player, shall we say, which we'll get into in a minute. And yeah, so because my point to him was, what are we actually competing for? At this point of the season, what are we competing for? We kind of look like we're locked in for the 9th seed.
Yeah.
The Hawks have just lost Trae Young for 4 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to catch us, or we're going to stay, to-ing and fro-ing like that with them. And Nets just, I think the top 10 is pretty much what he's going to, or the top 10 teams are the top 10 teams now, aren't they?
I think Nets are in free fall, and Atlanta could potentially go that way now with Trae Young being out.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the standings now, Hawks are 2 games behind us. Nets are 5 games behind us. So that, that doesn't look like it's going to change that much. It's the teams above us, obviously. That's what he was looking at. And when I sort of said, well, what chance have we got to get into the 6th seed? At the minute, the 6th seed's Miami. We're just seeing Jimmy Butler, a bit of load management, getting his suspension for trying to be acting the hard man. Hold me back, make me look hard.
Handbags at dawn.
Idiot. I don't know why people think he's a tough man, because what has he ever done apart from stand there with people holding him back, shouting?
That's all it takes. You sell yourself.
You could go Thomas Bryant and start bitch slapping Jose Alvarado.
Yeah.
Or
Draymond Green or Isaiah Stewart. Pick one.
Yeah. But anyway, so as it stands, they're in 6th seed on a 4-game win streak at the minute, and then you've got Pacers and Magic both lost their last games, and they're a bit like Bulls at the minute in terms of they'll win 2 games, then they'll lose a game, then they'll win a game, and so we're never going to catch them because we're basically on par with them. Do you know what I mean? But we seem too far behind them. I mean, at the minute we're 4.5 games behind Magic. And our schedule's about to get pretty tough as well.
Yeah, so week of hell.
Yeah, to me, what are we competing with? What are we competing for? Do we want to get in as the 8th seed through the play-in to face Celtics and get completely embarrassed, or do we take this opportunity to develop the young players and the players like OB and the other 2-way guys? And I guess another question is, can you do both?
Yes, that would have been.
Can we get the wins? Yeah. Because to me, at the minute, we've got all 15 roster spots are full. We've got no Lonzo, no Zach, no P. Will, no Torrey Craig for the foreseeable. So 3 of them aren't coming back. Torrey Craig is going to be back, but how many games is he going to get at the end? So that takes you down to an 11-man rotation. OB, chances are he's not going to get many minutes. That's a 10-man rotation. Terry Taylor, all right, he had a few minutes against Pelicans, and I thought he looked all right, to be fair. Didn't do a lot, but he was, take him out, that's a 9-man rotation. And then you're going down to like Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry that are to-ing and fro-ing the minutes. 1 minute, Dalen's getting 2 minutes, the next he's getting 15, and the same with Julian Phillips. So you take them out, and you're down to 7-man rotation, which we know Billy loves. Yeah. But what he's also doing is he's playing DeMar 40 minutes a night, Kobe 40 minutes a night, You know, Ayo's now stepping up to doing 40 minutes a night because he's in the starting lineup. Caruso's playing far too many minutes for somebody who's held together by duct tape.
Yep.
You know, Vooch, God knows what's going on with Vooch. Sometimes it looks good, sometimes it looks shocking. And then even the likes of Drummond, he seems to have dropped back down to 15 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, if we do get to the play-in and we can get to the playoffs, what condition is this team going to be in? Because Billy is persisting with burning them out. And that's where this whole signing the team didn't make sense. You bring in another usable body, do you know what I mean? And still be able to use the likes of the team, Sonogo, Drell, off the two-way. So, yeah, like I say, question is, can we do both? What would you prefer to see?
Yes, I think we can do both. I think now is the time to start giving more minutes to these young guys, and not just garbage time, like real minutes in the middle of the game when it matters. And like, it's the only way that they're going to develop, and it's the only way to see what we've got in them. And I think we put ourselves in a position where we can get away with doing that a little bit, because like you say, you know, the furthest we can get realistically isn't much higher than where we are now. And unless we absolutely tank every game, the likelihood of dropping down and out of the playing picture is pretty low too. So we've kind of got this little window of opportunity where we can play these guys. And look, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You sit them back down again and you move on. But to not use them and to just let them burn out on the bench and then get rid of them at the end of the season makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And we ended up giving the likes of IO minutes when we had to, DT minutes now that we have to, Julian Phillips minutes when we had to, and they've all proved themselves as being usable pieces. It's not perfect. Nobody's saying it's going to be. Nobody's saying this is the answer. But what I am saying is this is the time. This is the opportunity in order to do it, where it won't really do any major damage to us if it doesn't work out. And yet the upside, the upswing is there, that it could show us what we could have going forward into the future, even if it's not really for this season. Moving forward, it just gives us a better picture.
Yeah, and the thing is, by giving them minutes now, whether it's Phillips, whether it's Terry, whether it's Batim, the games are still semi-competitive, 90% competitive, however you want to word it. Do you know what I mean? Because we are still playing for something. Other teams are still playing for something.
Mm-hmm.
Playing them in the last 2 or 3 games of the season, that's when they're not competitive, because teams are starting to rest players because they're already in the playoffs or completely tanked or whatever. So why do we want to see Kobe White still out there playing 40 minutes against Knicks on the last game of the season when it's a nothing game? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you don't want to see that be the first time that Dalen Terry gets 30 minutes, because it's a nothing game and you're not going to see what Dalen Terry can actually do. The way we're going to see what they can do is by playing them now in meaningful games.
Exactly.
And that goes down to even the two-way guys. You know what I mean? Because I'm not saying play him 20 minutes, but the likes of the team, give him 5 to 10 minutes of... Oh, hello.
Sorry. Back in a sec. You keep talking.
Yeah, you know, with Batim, for example, you give him 5 to 10 minutes of solid, decent basketball, and we're going to see what he is capable of. And if, like you said, if it doesn't work, you don't play him in the next game. But if it works, we've got a 3-point shooter now that can come off the bench. All he has to do, you know, he offers a bit of grit from what I've seen of him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he hasn't exactly set the G League alight, which I think is maybe what a lot of people was expecting. But what he's done is he's learnt the American game, and he's looked solid. has now got to learn the NBA game. And the only way he's going to do it is by playing. And like I say, if he comes in for 5 to 10 minutes, puts up 5 or 6 3-pointers, hits 3-4 of them, goes and sits down again. He's had a major impact. And I'm not saying he's going to get us to the playoffs. I'm not saying he's going to help us win a championship. But like you just said, it's what they offer next season and possibly the season after. And that's the same with Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry. If these 3 players now declare, and even I suppose you can throw Terry Taylor into it, they're end of bench players. And we've got Dalen Terry locked up for at least another 2 years on his rookie deal, which is it 4 or 5 million, whatever it is. I can't remember now.
I can't remember either.
Julian Phillips is on less than 2 million, I think. Bateem, I think he's going to be on 1 point something million. Terry Taylor's on a short, like a small deal. So for less than 10 million, you've got 4 players there that at the minute we don't know what they're capable of.
Right.
But potentially are solid rotation pieces that you're not going to say, oh, put them on the court, start them. But you're going to be like, why aren't they coming into the game? This is the perfect situation now for the team to come in and put some threes up. Perfect situation for Dalen Terry to just come in and cause a little bit of chaos, spark the team, add the bit of energy. Perfect time for Julian Phillips to come in and just fly, basically. Volleyball, block it, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Because from what we've seen of them, that's what they're capable of. And like I say, it doesn't have to be 20, 30 minutes a night. They can do that in 10 minutes a night. But that 10 minutes also gives the chance of Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan to sit for an extra 5 to 10 minutes as well. So they're not getting burnt out. They were not, like against Pelicans, that foul on Kobe White, for example, that could have gone drastically wrong.
Very much so.
Ooh.
That was the rabbit. Sorry, I'm having a real problem with animals tonight, so I do apologise with all the noise.
He froze on my screen as well, and just after that big bang, I was like, oh, he's gone.
My dog's having a conniption out there now because the rabbit made a big bang.
Professional.
The joys of recording at
home. I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so it's.
I'm going to kill the dog. Hang on a second.
Oh dear. Yeah, like I say, I've lost my train of thought, but we don't want to see DeMar playing for 40 minutes a night, risking injury. Don't want to see Kobe playing 40 minutes a night, risking injury. We don't want to see Caruso playing 35 minutes a night and then, been demanding that he's going into an ice bath because he's just been run over by Zion all night. You know what I mean? It's just... So by allowing Dalen Terry more minutes, Julian Phillips more minutes, it's just reducing their minutes. And then if we can be competitive in the play-in and we can get to the playoffs, DeMar DeRozan's not burnt out. Kobe White's not burnt out. Caruso's not, got more duct tape on. So, like you say, now is the perfect time to play these players. And there's no reason why we saw against Pelicans, we can win with this beat-up team that we're putting out there. And, there's no reason why we can't beat Bucks, for example, because they're not exactly setting the league alight at the minute. But why can't we beat Bucks with the team playing 5 to 10 minutes? Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm at with it. And like I say, and it's even the same as far down as Sonogo and Drell. We don't know what we've got in them.
No.
Are they just going to be two-way G League players? Or can we do a Miami Heat and convert them into legit NBA rotation pieces? Heat didn't know what they had with Hassan Highsmith or whatever his name is. until they played him. Lakers didn't know what they had with Caruso until they played him. And we don't know what we've got because we don't see him.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. And to go back on what you were saying a little while earlier, you were saying there's 4, potentially even up to 5 or 6 pieces that we can play and see what we have. We're not saying that all 4 or 5 or 6 of those players are going to be, diamonds in the rough, or we're going to strike gold with them. But I mean, if you give them all a bit of time and a few minutes and see, do they develop? Is there anything in there that they can maybe nurture or work on or bring out? You could end up maybe pulling out 2 or 3 players that have become usable pieces. And that also gives you a vision into the future of, okay, these are the ones that we're going to keep, and these are the ones we're going to let go and go in a different direction with. And at the minute, we just don't know. And we don't know because we're not playing them.
Yeah. And obviously the one player that we wanted to talk about most in all of this is Dalen Terry, because of his performance against Pelicans. And this is the player that I alluded to earlier on that other podcasters have now started to highlight, and has he arrived, basically, and all that sort of stuff. And it's like I said to you, me and you have been sat in the train station on the DT train all the time, and we're now ready to go with it, ready to get going, and everyone else seems to be now willing to jump on board with it.
Yeah, we've comfortable seats up in the first class carriage.
Exactly. And that one game against Pelicans doesn't mean that he's arrived, but that game against Pelicans has shown, or it showed me, what we've said about him the whole time. You've always said, give him a minute. He only needs a minute.
Yeah.
I've often liked him to, a wish Lonzo Ball with the energy of Javonte Green. Basically, he'll go out and do everything at a lower level than what Lonzo Ball does. He can score points, he can get you rebounds, he can defend, he can, full court passes sort of thing. And I mean, against Pelicans, I think he got 15 minutes, 2 points, which was off the back of that play that sparked the comeback. He got maybe like 3 assists, 4 rebounds. I can't remember his exact stat line, but the one that stood out was he was a team high plus 17.
Yeah.
And it's a stat that I don't like. I've always said that. I don't understand it. But for the analytical type people out there, it stands out. And that's because that's what we've always said with Dalen, is he's not going to win you, maybe not even going to win you games, let alone championships. But it's the effect he has on the rest of the team.
Right.
Because, like you say, that one play seemed to spark not just him, but it sparked everybody. And that's what you want from him, and unless we start playing him more, he's never going to develop the parts of his game that everybody's saying he needs to develop, like his shot. The game needs to still slow down for him. I'm not saying that he's going out there and he's going to win Rookie of the Year, or he's still classed as a rookie, and he technically, I'm not saying he's going to go out there and Bulls fans are going to demand he's in the starting lineup, because I know he's not that sort of a player. Obviously, everyone goes back to the fact that he was the 18th pick. So what? You know what I mean? It's just, to me, that's just a number. 18th pick, neither here nor there, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's just, you can get an absolute bust, or you can get a legit NBA player, basically.
Yeah.
And I just think that's what Dalen's going to develop into, is a legit rotational NBA player. Who you're not going to be that bothered if he gets into the starting lineup. You're not going to be that bothered if he's coming in as 6th man, whatever it happens to be. But as we've said, until we see him, he can't develop them extra parts of his game. His shot, he can work on his shot all he wants in the gym. He can work on the mechanics of it. But the game has to slow down enough for him to make a good shot. That to me is what he needs to work on, not the mechanics of his shot, because we've seen that change already. It's the fact the game just needs to slow down for him, and he needs to. The rhythm of the game needs to come together for him, if that makes sense. It just needs putting it all together now, basically, into you've got the skill set there, you've just got to know how to use the skill set.
Right.
So yeah, I know obviously you're now quite hyped about DT as well, so I'll let you.
Yeah, I am, and like you say, we have been kind of in his corner for the most part. There have been a few wobbles here and there, but for the most part, we've been in his corner purely because the kid's just. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm on my own in this, but I just find him so likable.
Yeah.
And even when he wasn't playing particularly well, and we weren't even sure could he break out of whatever level he was at, which is now proving that there is more potential there, and a lot more people can see that. But you still kind of wanted to keep him around because, if nothing else, he was a real morale lifter off the court and even on the sideline. You know, how many clips have we used? And you use that one every single time we win a game. It's not a Bulls win unless DT says so. And there's just something about him. Now the game is beginning to come to him a little bit more. Like you say, it still needs to slow down a bit, but the potential now for his game to develop and to become a part of him, as well as his positive attitude and his mental toughness, and how he does not give in to negativity. You can just see that exudes through his whole body. This will not give in to negativity. If he misses, he doesn't care. He'll shoot it again. If he only gets 1 minute, and he'll chase his own shots too. And if he doesn't get any more than a minute, or if he sits on the bench for 1, 2, 3 games, doesn't matter. When he does get on the court, he'll run around every second he's on the court, trying to do whatever he can to affect the game in a positive way. There's just something about him that I'm just really drawn to. And what I like about that kind of a player that plays with pure heart and hustle is eventually basketball will come to them. If they keep trying hard enough, the skill set will either develop or it will break through. And I'm not saying he's going to become a top tier player or anything like that, but he will become a fundamental piece that can be used by whichever team he's on, whether that's Bulls or whether he goes somewhere else. The exciting thing for me is he is and always has been a great passer of the ball, right? He has great court vision and he plays at pace and can still pass the ball very well at pace. When the game starts to slow down for him, the passing side of his game is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be his biggest asset to the team, his distribution, and the fact that he'll get stuck in, fight for the ball and kick the ball out, and sees things that not all players see. And I suppose that's where you're likening him to the Lonzo Ball light version of him, do you know? And if he gets his shot together a little bit more and the game slows down for him, I think there's going to be good things out of this kid. I really do.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that I take with Dalen is, and it comes from Kobe White, is we've got to have patience. You know, start of this year, everybody was wanting to send him to China, the same as everybody wanted Kobe gone. And the reason for me, the reason why, and to me, the reason why, in particular, Kobe and Ayo have developed into two of our best players now, is because they've been given the minutes, they've been given the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And that's just what Dalen needs. You know, like everyone says he needs to work on his shot. Yeah, you know, in this day and age, this NBA, they do need a shot, unfortunately. But I think he can impact the game in other ways. Like you say, his passing, his hustle, stuff like that. And I mean, if you actually look into his history a little bit as well, he didn't have a very good college career. because of COVID, and he come into it with a knee injury. He was on a podcast with his old college coach a couple of weeks back, and it was all on there. And his coach said it was his mentality that got him through it. You know, he knows he's not the best player on a team, but he can be the most impactful player on a team.
Right.
And that's what I think you kind of see with him. Now, there was a game, I can't remember if it was a Celtics game or if it was the Cavs game before the All-Star break. Julian Phillips, I think he'd fouled somebody and his head dropped. And Dalen was the first person to him, and he was tapping him on the chest and basically saying, lift your head up, don't let it bother you. And I think what that is, that's leadership. And that's in a year 2 player who's only, 21?
Yeah.
And I think that he's well liked in the locker room as well, in the same way that Kobe is and was, and that's developed into the leadership now side of it. And obviously we've seen, I think it was a Sixers game where he pushed Caruso into position, so he's not scared to go against the vets. Not against him, that's the wrong word, but he's not scared to tell him. He, that if DeMar's kicking off, DT is probably going to be one of the first ones there pulling DeMar back, because he knows when to do it and when not to do it, sort of thing. And that we're going to see endless workout videos from him this summer, because he's going to want to work on his game. His body's finally sort of catching up with itself. He's put on a lot of size now, or a lot of muscle. And, we saw it just after he got drafted. He was up in Toronto, I think it's the Rico Hines, where he was working out with the likes of Pat Bev and the Raptors players and stuff like that. Last year, we see him going down with Johnny Dribble Too Much and DeMar. And this is, to me, is where DeMar is crucial in the mentorship, is because he's instilling a certain mentality into the players like DT and P. Will, that even if DeMar's not on this team, that DT is going to go work out with DeMar in the summer.
Yeah.
And next year, if they're not on the same team, they'll be working out together, because they've got that thing now, and that mentality is going to carry through with players like DT. And as we've seen with the workout videos that Johnny Dribble Too Much does put together, whether it's Kobe or DeMar, what they're doing in an empty gym does translate onto an NBA court, which everybody always says, I want to see. Now, that one that I've just put on of DeMar, there is a video, or there is an extended version of it, which I've seen, and Johnny Dribble Too Much is talking over it. And DeMar misses, I think hits 2 or 3 in a row and then misses the next 2. And he says, the reason why I've kept this out there is because it shows that they do have to keep working on the game, basically. That, and obviously that's the side the NBA players don't want you to see, because they want to see, they want you to see them hitting 5 threes in a row, for example. Do you know what I mean? When that's not their game. And that's going to be true with the likes of Dalen, probably Julian Phillips in this off season as well. They're going to go work out with Johnny Dribble Too Much, or whoever it is they go to, and we're only going to see the bits that they want us to see. But the bit we don't see is the amount of hard work that they're actually putting in the off season, and that's all part of development.
Of course.
So yeah. I know you had one more little question to throw out there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll put this to you. On the back of what we've been talking about, can this team reach the elusive 500 before the end of the season?
Right. What are we now? 3 behind?
3 behind?
Pistons tonight, then Cavs. So I'd say by the time we go into March, we're still going to be 3 behind. I'm jumping ahead with my predictions there. But I've also looked at March's schedule, because I've put together in UK times, and I've not done proper predictions for it, but I've gone 7 and 8. That's how I see we come out of it. It's pretty brutal. It's a lot of West Coast teams. So if that's how it happens to be, by the time we get to April, we're going to be 4 4 below if I go off my predictions.
Okay.
I haven't quite looked at April's schedule, but I know it's very Knicks orientated.
Yeah, there's 2 Knicks games back to back, isn't there?
Yeah. Obviously, they're going to be garbage games anyway at that point of the season. So you're going to pick up wins where you probably don't expect to.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it comes back to what we've just been saying. Play the younger guys, develop the younger guys. If that's what we decide to do, does that cost us games or does it help us win games? My sort of answer on it is I don't think we do. I think we finish 3 below off the top of my head.
I haven't crunched the numbers, the figures, or the games like you have at all, even though you did send me the list. However, I think the way this team tends to leave people as fans and the way things tend to go, I reckon by some irony, we end up finishing 1 below 500.
So
now, I'm not sure how we get there, but that's what I reckon will happen. Just enough for us to think we might, and just enough that we don't.
like we've said at the start, we're pretty much locked into the play-in now.
Yeah.
If we finish 1 below 500, that's the same as last season.
Mm-hmm.
If we can develop the players on the way to get into that, as we've just alluded to, to me that it's not a successful season, but it's as successful as we could hope for, especially after the way we played at the start of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it was the start of the season that killed us.
Yeah, then the whole Zach thing, the injuries, do you know what I mean? It's been an absolute nightmare. So to me, that's where we've now got to develop the players, because that could be the highlight. I mean, yeah, Ayo, Kobe, absolute highlight of the season for me. You know, before we've even got to the end of it, that's going to be what this season's remembered for me. So yeah, I'd take 1 below, to be fair, at this point.
And the reason why the likes of Kobe and Ayo developing is considered to be a success in your eyes and other people's eyes as well, including my own, is because now that gives us something that we didn't really have, which is hope going forward.
Yeah.
So it kind of helps you to kind of push this season to one side a little and think, right, we can focus on what's going to happen next year.
And it also gives me hope that there is something with DT and Julian Phillips.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just needs that little bit of patience and that little bit of, nurturing, basically.
But it's quite funny, isn't it, that this season we've started to see players develop and given us hope of developing younger players into the future. It's the same year that we took on a development team, isn't it?
Strange. Coincidence.
Yeah, funny that.
So yeah, as we just said, we've got Pistons up, well, tonight actually, or tomorrow morning for us. So chances are you probably watch that game by the time you listen to this. But obviously,
I'll be editing it while I'm watching the game.
Yeah, we'll give our predictions for it and the next 2 games as well. Possibly even the next one after that, because I don't know when we'll be back. But anyway, yeah, Pistons tonight. What are you saying?
I think we have to beat the Pistons. We have to.
Yeah,
I know they're athletic, but I think we have to beat them.
I mean, obviously they're coming in on the second of a back-to-back, and it's the start of a back-to-back for us. Now, obviously, we don't tend to do well against teams coming in, or we don't do as well as we think we're going to do on the teams coming in on the second of a back-to-back. And they're pissed as well after last night. Monty Williams is probably going to get a fine for calling out the refs, saying it's the worst refereeing decision of the season. If you haven't seen it, it's all over Twitter, all over Instagram. DiVincenzo basically rugby tackles Thompson, and then they turn the ball over, and Knicks go on and get the winning basket, basically. Rightly so, he's pissed off. But what that says to me is that Pistons were in that game to the end,
despite
obviously the way the two teams are, and they're going to come in tonight pissed. Whether the players are going to be able to use it to their advantage or not, obviously they're without Stewart after he decided he was a boxer, so that's one down. And to me, this is a perfect game to throw someone like Batum in, because it's against the worst team in the league. So, like you say, we've got to beat them. So I'm going win this one. Tomorrow night, obviously we've got Cavs at the UC as well. What should I say? Second of a back-to-back for us. We're not doing very well against Cavs of late. We've got better, I guess. Cavs are playing tonight as well, actually, against Mavericks. So didn't know that. So that changes things slightly, I guess.
Both on back-to-backs.
Yeah, and they're obviously then having to fly in from Cleveland to Chicago as well. Again, doesn't mean a thing with this Bulls team. I still think we lose that game.
Yeah, I do too. I think we lose that game.
And then Saturday is the start of what is going to be a hell of a week for us in terms of tip times. The teams they're facing aren't exactly decent, or good for us. We've got Bucks on Saturday at 3 a.m. in Chicago.
Yeah, why it's 3 a.m. I don't know, but anyway,
it's an ESPN game. I know that much. I don't know if that's
probably fitting around the TV schedule then.
Yeah, like I say, Bucks. What are you saying?
Loss.
Yeah, I think it'd be the same. And then Tuesday, I'll throw that one in because chances are we record after it. Another 3 a.m. tip, and it's the start of a West Coast trip, and we're going to Sacramento to face the Kings.
Yeah, I know I want to say loss, but I can't say 3 in a row, so I'll say a dub for that one.
Yeah, see, I'm going to say 3 in a row.
Ouch.
So make the most of beating the worst team in the league tonight.
Let's hope we do, or else it could be 4 in a row.
Yep. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I've got nothing else. I don't know if you have.
Nope.
So yeah, like I said, chances are we'll be back next Tuesday after that Kings game. Probably very tired because it's going to be a long day. The time of the tip don't bother me. It's the fact that I usually start work at 5 o'clock, so chances are I don't get to see the end of it. But anyway, I'll figure something out. But yeah, until then, I've been Matt, and you can find me on Twitter at MattCRedUK, and you can find us on all the socials at CRedUK.
And you can find me on Twitter at NeilCRedUK. On behalf of both of us and the Fans First Sports Network, thanks once again to everyone for tuning in. From us both, do remember it's a Chicago Bulls thing wherever in the world you are. And until next time, see Red people. Go Bulls.